I think she likes you. First day in Florida, you found somebody that you like already. Pretty good record. And I was concerned about remembering all the names of all the different people I was meeting every day. So I was creating little memory gimmicks for myself. And she was just chatting up a storm with us at the table, and I'm like, this girl just did not shut up.
Yeah, that's the Brooke we remember. That we love.
Brooke. She's like a babbling Brooke. And it would be 6 months later before I was with Carrie and Judy for the holidays, where Judy was telling all these stories about how when she was little she wouldn't shut up, and she started referring to her as her little babbling Brooke. And that was charming. I was concerned about meeting Carrie for the first time because, having been enlisted in the military and hearing that her father was a retired colonel with 32 years from military intelligence, no less. This should be something, but obviously Carrie loved everybody. And as soon as he was sure I wasn't going to be bad for Brooke, I was one of the family. It's hard to think about her without thinking about her disease. And it struck me that in all the time that I talked to Judy, Judy was always very thoughtful, very introspective about things. She liked to understand the why of things. And sometimes she'd be judgmental of things when she disagreed with them. But the only time I ever heard her speak with hatred was the day she talked about when they realized Brooke was sick. And she talked about it being such an insidious disease. And just, I'd never heard her talk that way. It gave me chills, because I'm like, here is this, southern lady who is now almost hissing words out between her teeth. She was just so angry. But Brooke never saw it that way. She didn't like talking about it. She didn't like people to know that there was anything wrong. She would argue with me about telling anyone if we were going to the hospital, because the last 5 years she was in the hospital a couple times a year usually, and we'd be in the hospital, and I'm like, all right, I'm calling your dad, and she's like, no, don't tell him I'm here. And the first time she asked me not to, I didn't. And a couple days later we told him, and I told her I'm never doing that again.
Right.
That was a bad
You don't get a
decision.
vote on that. You can say you don't want your friends to know, you don't want people from work to know, but you're not going to tell me that Carrie and Judy don't know, because I can't do that one again.
They know how to find me.
Yeah. And it started the very first time she was in the hospital after we started dating. I called her and she sounded strange, and I asked her if she was okay, and she said, yeah. She says, I'm very tired. Would it be okay if we don't get together for this weekend, and give me a call next week? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, is anything wrong? And she's like, no, I had to go in for some tests and things. I'm like, well, is something wrong? And she says, no. I said, well, I mean, are you at a doctor's office? Well, no, I'm at the hospital. And she made the mistake of telling me which one, so I went over to check on her, and I went to the room, and of course, Carrie, as always, was sitting by her bedside, and she was horribly embarrassed that I had found her, and walked in, and of course, Carrie, being protective, said, Jason, why don't you, and she started to try to talk, but her voice was very hoarse because she was having trouble with some things, and then she yelled. She's like, no, I want him here. And Carrie's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And that struck me that we had a connection. I remember the first time she said, I love you, and it was a joke. It was Christmas time, and there was a charitable organization that had a tent set up for families that had nothing to come in and pick out a couple of things, pick out a couple of toys for the kids, or something for their tree, or some food. They just had a variety of things. And she had told me she was going by after work to drop off a few things. And when I saw her a little while later, she had dropped off a few things, and she came to my house, and she was in tears. And I said, "What is wrong?" And she said, "I went there to drop off things. There's almost nothing there. It's weeks before Christmas, and there's nothing there." And she says, "I want to go to the store and buy some things to put over." And I said, "Okay, let's go to the store." And she says, I got my tips for the week. And she walked through the doors. It was went into Target. She got to the slide doors. She's like, "I don't have a lot, but is it okay if we get a cart?" And I was like, "You can get 2 carts." So I said, "You grab one, I'll grab one. We'll see who fills it with cooler stuff first." And she stopped and turned around and she said, "I love you." And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Shut up, my cart's going to be better than yours." She of course had her great loves, which were family, dogs, and food. And she didn't care that at least one of those food ran in direct contradiction to everything about her illness. And she yelled at me for being like her parents too much. "Are you really sure you should eat that? Have you checked your sugar?" She's like, "You're not my father." "I know, but you still haven't checked your sugar. Have you checked how much sugar is in that before you eat it?" And that was about the only time she would ever get mad at me, was when I would fuss over it. And at one point, she made the comparison. She said, "Don't be like my dad." And I said, "Why not? He's like the textbook adoring husband. Why, And she said, "Because if you were to me like he is to my mom, I would feel smothered. I'm not my mom. I want different things." And I said, "Okay, but I can't stop thinking about these things." When she had to stop working was the first of a few blows. She couldn't be on her feet anymore, and that was the first time I'd ever seen her defeated. Other people would talk about their problems, and it always struck me that people with very small problems would spend a lot of time talking about it. And here she was struggling with something that was sometimes life and death from one month to the next, and just moved on. She would get back from the hospital and get back to work. She would, she didn't even talk about it with people. She would answer questions that people asked. She didn't want to talk about how she just spent a week in the hospital. It didn't mean anything. That was an interruption to life to her, and she didn't want any more interruption. She wanted to get back to life. She really talked about it with me. I would be the one fussing, and she would be the one telling me to calm down. And of course, dogs. About every 6 months, she would ask me if we'd get another dog. I said, "No." I said, "3. We got to 3. 3's enough." And then she would see a dog and ask if she'd get it. And then when she had to stop working, she said, "Maybe I'll volunteer." And she said, "I think I'll volunteer at a shelter." I said, "Absolutely not. No, because then you'll just show up with them. I won't even get a vote, and you'll come home with another dog every day." I said, "Can't do that." But we were at Christmas, I think it was about 5 years ago, and she started trying to work on me. She's like, "But it's Christmas."
Working on you.
She's like, "All I want for Christmas is another puppy," and stuff. And we're having one of our fake arguments about it. And Carrie just looked at me and said, "I'm glad she does it to you now instead of me." He says, "It didn't matter if it was a birthday or Christmas or just a sunny day. Can I have a puppy?" "No." And that was fun. When Judy passed, I was worried about both of them. Of course, everybody assumed, as close as Carrie and Judy were, that they would be days apart from each other. They wouldn't be apart that long. And that was pretty much all Brooke talked about for days, was worrying about him. What are we going to do with him? We need to find more things for him to do. have him over to dinner every week. We got to, do these things to help him remember that there's still a whole rest of the world out there. And he walked in after the holidays that year. He just walked in with a bunch of brochures. Announced that he was going to start traveling. He was going to go see the things he hadn't seen and revisit the things he had visited before and locate people he hadn't connected with in a long time, and that he was going to ride the rails for as long as he could, kind of thing. And we breathed this big sigh of relief that he found something he wants to do. He's thinking about what's next now instead of what's gone. And that helped her a lot. The only other time I ever saw her defeated in spite of everything she went through was when they took her name off the transplant list. And at that point, she came home and said, "I don't want to do this anymore." She had from time to time complained about the mechanics of the disease, being tired of giving injections or things like that. But I'd never seen her so defeated. And we talked about that a lot. And then I started worrying. And it was not long after that she passed. And I chalked it up to, if you have fought with something for that long, it's up to you when you want to stop. She had a DNR that I disregarded half a dozen times because I just didn't tell them it was there. During those last 2 years, she got angry at me a couple of times about it. That telling me I shouldn't have called the ambulance, or I shouldn't have worked so hard. And I said, that's not how this works. But her last day was really nice. She was feeling better. We stayed up late watching things on TV and just laughing and just having a really good day. And she went to bed. She said that it had been a really great day. She wasn't feeling very good. And we checked everything, and I said, you know what? It is pretty late. Get some rest. You'll be better in the morning. And for her it was. Not so much for the rest of us. But when I think about her now, for me, it took a while to process. But when I think about her now, think about her spending her time. I bet she's sitting out in the yard in the afternoon with every puppy she never got to get, playing with them. And I think later in the day, she and Judy probably walked down on the beach with their feet in the water, with Carrie constantly standing just a little bit away, keeping an eye on both of them, and introducing himself to every person that passes. And pointing out the two girls that are his entire life. And I think she does have it pretty good again.
Still wants another dog.
Right.
That is my perspective on things now. It has been difficult and strange to wait 2 years to do this. It will feel strange because I've had her sitting on the shelf in my office every day, and but it is also time. That's all I wanted to say, except for thank you.
We
Very
appreciate you doing this because we needed closure. Definitely. Thank you.
We're here for you, buddy.
You're still here, we'll stay here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're still our family.
I didn't think I'd be like this.
So, do you want to place her in the grave, or do y'all want us to do that after you leave?
Yeah.
Or- Okay. Well, we're probably going to just let y'all maybe come right here, where it's not so cool.